I wanted to start this off. Some people in the media world and the sports world know you as the guy who has worked with all of the top legendary athletes. So you're referring to before, some of the greatest basketball players, some of the greatest fighters, entertainers, but and we can talk a little bit about that later. But I think, from having known you for a short little while now, but having had some great conversations with you, I know that you uh, have been through it all, from dealing in high end sports cards at the beginning to the ups and downs, which is sort of the stuff that I think we both agree is the most important. So I'd love to start with just hearing how you got into business, because I think that's the best way to start, and how you had your first, sort of high at the beginning of your career.
Cool. So, at 12 years old, I started my first business. Long before you were born, Juicy Fruit Big Red and Wrigley's used to sell 10 packs of gum for 99 cents. So I'd buy, a ton of them from the grocery store. They give me a little bit of a discount. I'd sell them for a quarter a pack out of my locker, and 2.5 times my money. And I also had a few odd part-time jobs, from working at a pizzeria, stockroom at a sneaker store. I was a busboy at a place called Don's in Livingston, New Jersey. And, I was pretty good at saving money. And as my friends started kind of being more interested in girls at 13, 14 years old, I started buying a lot of their baseball card collections that meant nothing to them anymore. It's kind of corny and outdated. And for what, I put together quite a big collection. And at 14, a intro to business teacher was still a dear friend of mine, challenged the entire class to go home and create a business that night. Now, in my mind, I actually had one. I just didn't have the execution. I had these incredible shoe boxes of baseball cards and meticulous condition. I have a little price gun. I put prices on the back of them. Something you never heard of, not Beckett. It was called CCP, Current Card Price Guide. It was a newspaper that would come once a week, and that was like the stock market of the card industry, long before Beckett came around. And so I went home that night. In my mind, I had something called Baseball Card City. And I sat down with my dad. I said, Dad, I need some insurance on my baseball cards. I got to start a business for my class. And it was interesting, as I was a terrible student. I was verbally teased all the time for having a learning disability, slow learner. But my dad took such interest in it. And he goes, all right, well, what do you need? I'll get some insurance. And I said, I need about 8 or 9. So he's like, all right, I'll get you about $1,000 worth of insurance in case we ever have a flood or something. And I said, Dad, not 8 or 900, 8 or 9,000. So now he looks at me like I'm nuts. He goes, how did you get 8 or 9,000 worth of cards? So I bring the cards down, I bring the price guy down, I start showing him. He goes, but where did you get all these? I'm like, my dad, everybody wants the Don Mattingly's, the Darryl Strawberries, the Tony Gwynns, the Wade Boggs, the Roger Clemens. I like the old stinky cards that they would get from like their grandfathers and their uncles, like the Mickey Mantles, the Joe DiMaggios, the Babe Ruth. So between trading and buying their collections, I focused on the older ones because they were worth more money. And so he goes, okay, well, how are you going to sell them? I said, funny you should ask. I went back upstairs, being this big newspaper I had from West Essex Tribune, which was the local paper. And there was these brothers, Rocco and Sal Salino, from they were promoters in Livingston. For whatever it was, $20, you can get a table and display your cards on an 8-foot display. And so now he challenged me. He goes, you think you could sell them there? I go, yeah. I said, I think it'll be a lot of fun. So my friend Steve Simon, who coincidentally, I go back 41 years now, is one of the main agents at Prince Marketing Group for me. We split the table, $10 each. I spent every night after school making sure I had the most meticulous display. He spent maybe 3 hours. He went in for fun. I went in to crush it. And I made over $1,000 that Sunday afternoon.
Let's
and
go.
He made about $100. And the buying, selling, trading just meant we felt it. Oh, hold on, bro. Here we go. So the buying, selling, trading just made me feel so alive. I felt like I had a purpose. And every weekend from there on out, I started, doing baseball card shows. And Sports Collectors Digest was the Bible back then. And I started, putting enough revenue together. I was running full page ads, 2 pages, a week, spending $1,000, $1,200 a week on advertising. And I became like a stockbroker for high-end baseball cards long before grading was around, to some pretty big wigs on Wall Street, doctors, lawyers. Keith Olbermann from ESPN was a client, and these guys would call me up on my phone. I was the first kid at 14 to have a cell phone, which was made by Bell Atlantic back then. It was a big metal aluminum battery pack with a handheld plastic phone on with a rubber antenna. It was literally probably $3 a minute because nobody had cell phones. And in between class, I'd be on the phone. Hey, I'm looking for a 1958 Topps Mickey Mantle. I'm looking for, a Hank Aaron rookie. I'd go to shows that weekend, pick up the cards. Remember, there was no texting photos back then, but I would pick the best grade that I can, tack on a profit. And bro, by the time I was 16, I was probably pulling in $250,000 a year.
By the time you were 16.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I got a little bit of an audio issue. Hold on. Sorry. Give me a sec. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, much better.
Amazing. So I was saying you were making $250,000 by the time you were 16.
1986.
That's insane. So now what did you think about it at the time? Were you thinking that you were, going to be a billionaire? Were you thinking that, I now I can impress all the girls? Were you thinking, I can now buy this car? Or were you thinking, let me continue to build the business? What was going on in your head as a 16-year-old making $250,000?
I think it was the ultimate F you to everybody that, verbally teased me and verbally bullied me. I wasn't thinking long-term. I wasn't super smart with money back then. And there was a lot of flash and, a lot of insecurities, and just wanted to show everybody Darren Prince is going to be somebody. And I started getting high off the fumes. USA Today would write articles on me, New York Times, Daily News. I was one of the young hotshots of the business. The GOAT, which is the reason the card industry is where it is today, was a guy named Alan Mr. Mint Rosen, who made the hobby what it was. Only dealer to have a 8-page spread in Sports Illustrated, some of the most historic finds in the hobby. So when you see these 52 Topps mantles go for $5.5 million, those came from his finds out of Massachusetts. And he was one of my nearest and dearest friends. And, real arrogant without realizing that a lot of his underlying roots to deep-rooted insecurity. And, I think that's why I said I would love to hop on with you, because I also started at 14 what would be a 24-year high-end drug addiction.